This is the Fine Print Podcast, a space for slower conversations about power, culture, policy, media, and lived experience in the Caribbean and the diaspora. There are no hot takes here. We are interested in context, in what's being overlooked, and in who benefits from the way that stories are told. Each episode examines not just what's happening, but why it matters and what it reveals about us. I'm your host, Chanel Imhoff, and this is the Fine Print, examining all the things that make us who we are. Welcome to the Fine Print Podcast. In today's episode, we're talking about how Caribbean music moves through global systems, who gets access, who gets recognized, and how institutions like the Grammys shape what visibility looks like for artists from the region. We look at the process behind the awards, the politics of genre and categorization, and what it means for Caribbean music to be understood, valued, and positioned internationally. Joining me is Genie Sweetness, a Caribbean music executive with deep experience in the global music industry and the Grammy process. Genie, I'll let you introduce yourself in your own words.
My name is Janetta Shaw, but I am professionally known as Genie Sweetness. And yes, I say the full thing, Genie Sweetness. I have been working in the music space for over 35 years. Started off street team flyers, handing out flyers and stuff as a teenager. And then I'm here today. And what I like to say I do is I'm a customer service representative. I think is the best way to describe it. But no, just as a Jamaican woman, Jamaican by way of my mother, just as a Jamaican woman, trying to make sure that our music gets the same treatment as other genres and the major genres, so whether that's educating creatives, helping them with a release they have coming up, just a bunch of different things.
Amazing, Genie. And thank you so much for being with us. And, I was really interested in talking to you because you operate at the intersection of Caribbean music, culture, and global music institutions as well. So tell us, from where you sit, how would you describe that gap that exists between Caribbean visibility and Caribbean power in systems like the Grammys?
You know what? The gap is on us. It really is. And that's from me working close with the Recording Academy and getting to understand the process. It is a peer-based voting system, right? And so that means that if your peers are the one that are going to vote for you, then you need to kind of be there with them. Like, they need to know about you, they need to see, they need to interact, and so on and so forth. And because in the Caribbean, we all are one, we have this pride, this Caribbean pride. And we don't need to network, and we don't need, so the gap exists because of us. And there is a huge gap because then they also, they'll say, Bob Marley. And they're stuck right there, not understanding fully our culture and why the music is the way it is, or the lyrics, the feeling, none of that. But again, it's there it's lacking because of us.
And that's such an interesting perspective because of where we sit here in the Caribbean, it seems just a bit far removed from what actually takes place. So for listeners who assume that Grammy decisions are mainly driven by popularity or things like chart success, explain to us, in the most granular way, how the Grammy process actually works from submission right up to final voting, even if there are steps before submission that we don't even know about.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So the Grammys is the award, but the Recording Academy is the company, is the brand, right? In order to vote, you must become a voting member. To become a voting member, you need to be a creative being, whether you're an art director, producer, writer, artist. If you are part of the creative process of the music, then you are eligible to become a voting member. You would need 2 recommendations, and the 2 persons that are recommending you, they need to be in the music. So like as a publicist, you're able to recommend someone. So you're a publicist, so you can have a professional membership. You cannot have a voting membership, but you can still recommend someone because you work in the entertainment sector. As a creative, you need to have 12 credits within the past 5 years. And so you have an album with like 12 songs on it that still won credit. Okay. And it's the creative credit. So whether you were the engineer on there or yada, yada, yada. So you need that. You get your 2 recommendations. It is extremely important that those who are going to recommend you, that you're all using the same email address. After they send their recommendations, you will receive an email, hey, you were recommended. And then you have to tell about yourself. Why should you be considered for a Recording Academy membership? The deadline for the 2 recommendations is February 15th. Your deadline to get your things in is March 1st. And then come June, July, you get to know whether or not you've been accepted as a member. So that's the process. And as I'm saying, there's professional memberships for people like myself who's on the administrative ends of things. You cannot vote, but you have all of the other rights that voting members have.
And it's so interesting, like getting behind the scenes of these things, because for us, we always get like the final product. You get to see, on the red carpet, you get to see who wins on the night, but you don't ever really talk about or really ask about how the process actually works. And I think sometimes, especially when it comes to, Caribbean music and Caribbean artists and people of Caribbean descent, that we tend to, I guess, feel some type of way when maybe an artist who we don't know wins a Grammy in a category that's usually dominated by Caribbean artists like reggae or dancehall, not exactly understanding what the process is actually like. But at what points in that process, though, do you think Caribbean music is most likely to be maybe misunderstood, filtered, or even disadvantaged?
So because we do not have the best representation within the membership, then they can only go off of the music they hear that is submitted. So then maybe they weren't listening to you before because they're used to listening to children's pop, and then they don't know your music. Again, not understanding the culture, not understanding anything. So they'll just like click play, oh, okay, this sounds good. Okay, I'll vote for this one. But they don't really understand the music, and so that's why you're at a disadvantage, and why for those who are diehard fans of the Caribbean genres, they don't understand why they're not seeing their persons represented. It's because those who are voting, they only just heard your music when you submitted it.
That definitely makes a lot of sense, because Caribbean music is also often grouped into limited genre categories at the Grammys. Because I think right now it is, to the best of my knowledge, it's Best Reggae Album. What are the cultural and industry consequences of that type of categorization? And there are more categories that we may not hear on the night, because I know some things are announced before and don't make it to actual Grammy night. Tell us about that and the consequences of that type of categorization.
The most awesome thing happened this year, and that the awards we normally don't see presented, now they have the premiere ceremony. So that comes on about 3.5, 4 hours before the big night. And this is where you're going to see all of those different awards being given out. The way to get the other categories added, you're a member, you go to the membership meeting, you put a petition before it, they vote on it. It literally is that simple. We don't have any Caribbean advocates. We don't have enough Caribbean advocates to do it. So it starts with membership. And that's, I just have to keep going back to that. It's starting with the membership. It's going to keep saying reggae, although we're zouk, soca, calypso, mento. It's going to just keep saying reggae. Not even dancehall, which the dancehall community, is just going to stay at reggae because, we're not there to put a petition to have the rest added.
You said we don't have a lot of Caribbean advocates when it comes to getting these categories added. I think one thing that we didn't touch is eligibility outside of being like in the industry. What's the eligibility like? Do you have to live in the US? You have to be from the US? How does that part of things go? Because I know that we have a lot of music here in Antigua, Barbuda, and the rest of, I'm going to advocate for my small islanders here, the rest of the OECS. But for someone who is producing music here, what does that realistically look like for them?
You know what the most awesome thing is? Everybody can join. Oh. It's not because you're in this location or that location. Nope, because Jamaica does, well, I don't know if they do in 2026, but they do have representative in Jamaica at the time who, whatever issues you have or whatever, you could go to them. I didn't even know that was there. So maybe the awareness of the fact that no matter where you are, you can join. Maybe we need to focus on that more. It was not something that I realized that maybe, everyone they don't know that they can join regardless of where they are.
Listen, I was today years old learning that. And I think that a lot of our artists can
Yeah.
benefit from knowing that, because we have a Grammy nominated artist from Antigua Barbuda who is Drastic, right? Drastic was nominated as a
Yes.
songwriter on Jack Yore's album that was nominated for Best Reggae Album. I think it might have been twice.
Okay.
And when that happened, we were so happy. People were congratulating him, and I make sure to tell him, because that's my homie, to always keep that in your bio, because that's a big thing, especially coming from such a small place. From there, it's just, yay, we celebrate, but we don't exactly think of how do we get more artists from where we are getting this level of recognition, because we have our carnival competitions, we have things like that, but then carnival is also very categorized. Carnival is soca and calypso. You don't hear reggae and dancehall. And I did some digging. I wouldn't want to say cyber stalking, but I realized just like me, you're a dancehall girl, you who loves her a good clash. And there's
Yeah.
a huge dancehall community here, not just dancehall lovers,
Yes. Yes.
dancehall and reggae artists as well. And I
Yes.
really
Yes.
all across the region. But you hear reggae, you think Jamaica. You hear dancehall, you think Jamaica. You hear soca, you might think of Antigua sometimes, but
Trinidad.
you do think of Trinidad. And there's some rising categories now, like bouillon. People in the region, I didn't even realize, love bouillon. Bouillon music is out of Dominica, St. Lucia, the French speaking,
Okay.
island.
Yes. Bouillon means
It's like,
chicken, right?
the bouillon means chicken. Bouillon means whatever it means over there. But so soca is to calypso, what bouillon is to zouk. Yeah, I think that's the best
Okay.
way
Yeah.
that I can describe that. So there's, for us here, there's this huge gap in, okay, we have one or two artists who might make it there, but what we want to see is that we don't just have one artist, we have many artists. And I think what that showed me as well is that there are opportunities for collaboration across the entire region. So that small island, big island link up, it was chef kiss, absolutely beautiful. And now what we have out of that is an artist who can say, yes, I was nominated for a Grammy. And now with our conversation, people can say, now I know how I can actually be involved, other than sitting at my computer and sucking my teeth that my favorite artist didn't win. And let's continue on with the genre categories as well, because do you think that they ultimately protect Caribbean music, or do they risk confining it a bit?
No, it's confined. It's confined. You all sound the same. That's it. You all sound, what's the difference? You all sound the same. You're all Jamaican, so it's all reggae.
Right. No, but you're right. You're right. You tell people you travel far and say, oh, where are you from? I'm from Antigua. They're like, which part of Jamaica is that? I mean, it's getting better now because we have the internet and people have all this access at their fingertips. But at the end of the day, there are still people who are like, where in Jamaica is Antigua? I think I agree with you on that one in terms of it being confined, because what I've noticed is that there's so much influence of Caribbean music and Caribbean art in the global music scene, in hip hop, in pop. There have been so many crossovers. There have been so many samples as well. There's some songs right here that I know that's a sample from a reggae album from 1971.
You heard it, right?
I heard it. Let's talk about power here, because one of the things that we do at the Fine Print is that we really examine power and how it works. Is there a tendency to overestimate the power of award while underestimating the importance of things like ownership, publishing, and even institutional presence?
I thought that was an absolutely brilliant point that you made there, because absolutely, you're not focused on your fans. You're not focused on the quality of the music. You're not even focused on getting some money back or anything. You just want to be awarded, and it completely overshadows anything else. So now everybody knows your name and you're everywhere, and then you're hungry when people aren't looking, and that makes no sense. No, take the time to handle your business first. Handle your business first. And I promise you, if you handle your business first, more reputable people will see your music than not. They're going to come across your music. They're always looking to sample. So then they will go to the publishing. Here comes your music. Next thing you know, here comes a licensing agreement. Got to take care of your business first.
You're so correct, because even on a smaller scale here, we have artists who have never won a Soca Monarch competition in their life. However, they are the ones who are touring the world. They are the ones who have been to Switzerland, Germany, Japan. Like they're always, whenever you message them, they're like, hey, I'm on tour right now. I had a conversation with Tizzy on Thursday.
Tizzy!
Yeah, see? I had a conversation with Tizzy. Tizzy's currently in Trinidad for Carnival with the LA Crew. She's with LA Crew in Trinidad for Carnival. Tizzy's always on the move. And Tizzy's an artist who has never won a crown in Antigua. And so you win a competition, that's great. You get that prize, that's good. You're so well known throughout the country. But then what comes after that? How are you building your brand outside of Antigua? I just called Tizzy's name to you and you knew exactly who I was talking about. And that's not the first time that something has happened. And I think she's definitely a case study in exactly what you're saying right now. And from my conversation with her, the through line of that conversation was consistency and working hard and collaborating, whether it's internal with your team or externally to get you in front of the people who you need to be in front of.
Absolutely. My Soca sweetheart is from St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and so she feeds me everything soca, and I get to, ask questions without her feeling insulted because, soca, since it's its very own culture, so that's how I was able to meet Tizzy and her spirit more than anything. I'm like, okay, I want to help, but in addition to her talent, her spirit absolutely is so opening. And when she was here, my soca sweetheart took care of her, but I was part of whatever you need, I got you. So Tizzy's awesome.
From your perspective now, what do you think it would take for Caribbean music to move from moments of recognition to actual sustained influence within global music systems? And when I say influence, I don't mean the influence it currently has where people take samples or they collaborate with the latest dancehall sensation out there so that they can get their music in front of their fans' eyes. Actual, factual influence. What would that take?
It would take us swallowing our pride and swallowing our ego. And again, we are so proud of where we come from. We are stuck there. So I bust here in my own house and I'm feeling good about it. My name is everywhere. I go to Brooklyn, New York. They don't know who I am. I have pictures with all these people that then came and all this other stuff, but nobody knows who I am down the street. That's horrible. But it's because of my pride, because I'm stuck. I'm good enough. I don't have to introduce myself to you. You already know who I am, and you're actually supposed to keep introducing yourself. So pride is getting in the way of the network. It's getting in the way of learning. We don't want to learn. We want somebody to do it for us. And that's, just running into it over and over, trying to educate. And I'm doing a one-on-one session with you. I'm doing a consultation. And the thing that you say at the end is, could you send me the notes on that? What? No, you were supposed to be taking notes. And then, didn't you want me to do whatever I told you, whatever I said, hey, do this, do that. You want me to do it for you. So it's pride. And that's why we're not taking it seriously, I would say. And we're the ones who are stunting our own growth.
Let's talk about what roles the artists themselves, the executives, and regional institutions should be playing more intentionally in shaping long-term outcomes. Because we have things like locally, we have our Ministry of Culture, we have our festivals commissions in the various islands. At a broader level, we have things like the OECS, we have CARICOM, we have CARIFest, we have all of these, carry this, carry that. What role do they play in things like this?
I won't say that the information is secret, but I definitely feel there's a disconnect to where the government doesn't necessarily feel that they have to hand walk you into the process when that's exactly what they need to do. They're sitting up high looking low. I can't come up there with you because I don't understand. And I really feel that if they let you know, since they do have so many services for creatives, if the information was on the level that they can understand, oh, I can get insurance for this. Oh, I didn't know I could get a loan. Like there's just so many programs the government needs to have, and to let the people that know about that process, and then the people need to go and become part of that process. I think as an executive, it's our job to keep educating and having the patience to educate, to continue to infiltrate other systems so that we can bring that information back home. Hopefully that answers what you were asking, because I think we are all responsible.
It definitely does answer that, and I do agree. We tend to have a bit of a myopic view of things like this, and it kind of boils back down to arts and culture being sidelined, sometimes intentionally, sometimes subconsciously because of how we grew up. And I told somebody the other day, I'm still very young. I'm not 35 yet, but I told somebody I feel like I've come full circle in one part of my life where I remember growing up, I was like, I want to read the news. I want to be a journalist. I want to do that, this and the third. I was always very artsy. I'm still very artsy, painting, drawing, translated that into graphic design and all of that. And, at that time, like 15, 16 years ago, your family's like, well, you could do it all, right? And for today, I am a professional graphic and web designer who also sometimes reads the news. So
really,
here I am. I am. So that is my passion. You turned my love of the visual and creative arts into an actual career that has really been blooming over the last few years or so. And that's because I personally never gave up on the arts. Whoever around me decided that, they're going to give up on it. I have this certain level of delusion that takes me through life that I told somebody, like, you got to be a little delusional sometimes. I think it's so important because we have that mindset, especially here in the Caribbean. Music is not going to get you anywhere. Art is not going to get you anywhere. But yet we sit down and we enjoy the same music and art that we think is not going to take anyone anywhere. Looking ahead, what would meaningful progress for Caribbean music and art and culture at the Grammys actually look like, let's say 10 years from now?
Ooh, what would it look like? We'd make it to the main stage. We wouldn't be in the premiere ceremony. That would be awesome. That would be huge progress. When they're giving out all the other awards, then you hear Reggae Album of the Year, Pop Award of the Year, Jazz of the Year, Reggae. Yeah, that would be progress because they already have smaller events during Grammy week. There's panel discussions, there's after parties, there's a lot that goes on. All of that hasn't made it to the main stage. It was wonderful to see Sly Dunbar, Cat Core, and Jimmy Cliff.
What?
Jimmy Cliff, to see them during that sound clash. It's oh, that's bad.
I'm keeping this in. I'm keeping this in.
Right? Like, oh God. Yeah. Sound clash. That's sound clash made me do it. And Jimmy Cliff, to see them as part of the official On Memoriam was awesome. It was awesome. Their names are also listed on the official Grammy website in the On Memoriam section. Well, actually, Sly, his was a standalone, like after all of them. But we, because he had just passed, so he didn't get to, but it was still there. And so the representation is coming, slowly, and that's awesome. But making it to the main stage in bigger category, that would show that we've infiltrated.
We're just about winding down, but that kind of reminded me of something and someone. This is kind of off script just a little bit, but this is a hill that I am willing to actually die on. Tessanne Chin has been slept on. I have been in love with Tessanne Chin for the past 25 years because the way that she puts her music together, it's very Caribbean. You can tell this is Caribbean music, but also this is not one genre. This is not boxed into anything. And I think that the music that she was producing, you listen to things like Black Books, The Messenger, those things are way ahead of their time. And I think that artists can take a page out of that book to say there's potential crossover without completely eroding your culture.
Yes, Rihanna.
That's another one. I mean, that's the most obvious choice for most people. You think, you have an artist from the Caribbean that it has to be like a one drop. It has to be like no, there is no definition of what Caribbean music should or is. Yes, they have genres. Everything has a genre, but Caribbean music can be anything and can fit anywhere. I have a little surprise for you at the end. So finally, the final serious question, I should say. What's the one persistent misunderstanding about the Grammys and Caribbean music that you wish we could just finally put to rest?
That you need it. You don't need a Grammy.
I know the people can't see me, but I'm clocking it right now.
That's it.
Excellent answer. Like, that's it. That's the answer. So, Genie, as I said, I did some internet sleuthing, some research, if I may. And I said, I realized you are, like myself, a Clash girly. So we're going to play a little bit of this or that, right? I'm going to give you two things and you have to choose one. There's no both. There's no none. You have to choose one. Okay. So the first one, Vybz Kartel or Bounty Killer?
Bounty.
Okay. Excellent. Bounty or Beanie?
Bouncy.
Okay. Shabba Ranks or Yellow Man? We're taking it back.
Shabba.
Shabba. Okay, I agree.
Yes.
Coming forward
Yeah.
a bit. Sean Paul or Popcorn?
Oh, Popcorn.
Interesting. Shensia or Spice?
Shensia.
Skilly Bang or Skeng? Taking it right to the future now. Skilly Bang or Skeng?
Ratty Gang, Skeng.
And the final one now, Tommy Lee or Massacre?
Massacre, one side.
Genocide. Every time. Genie, thank you so much for joining me. This was not only fun, but I would have learned so much. And I hope our listeners take what you've said today into consideration. When the next time that we catch up, we can catch up on how things have changed.
I want to make sure that it's understood that Howard Mason Jr., who is the CEO for the Recording Academy, if you were able to watch the Grammys or seen any clips or whatever, it was the most colorful Grammy Awards ever. And so you did get to see more. Kehlani is actually represents Trinidad and Tobago. So there were a lot of us that did win this year, whether it was a main award or, a smaller award, whatever. There are a lot of us. We are becoming more voting members. We are getting the word out. We are learning more. It just needs to be more. But he is dedicated and has been dedicated to making sure that we are represented in the Recording Academy. And we do have a person, his name is Len Brown, who specifically represents for us, but they still need us. So that's just, the boss, one of his staff members that are putting in that work, but they still need us so that there can be more authenticity because they can't do it alone.
Excellent. Jeannie, thank you so much. This was an amazing conversation. You've been listening to the Fine Print Podcast. If this episode helped you to understand something more clearly or see an issue differently, you can find more long-form work at thefineprintcollective.com. Subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts and continue the conversation with care and curiosity. This is The Fine Print.